Hey guys, as promised, here's my 3 Oberon builds that I promised that I'd make. Obviously, when I said that, they have actually changed Renewal, so it actually uses 2 energy per second, even when it's not healing allies, which is a huge nerf. And like I kept telling people in my last video, a buff, which is it doesn't have a duration, plus a nerf, it uses energy per second, does not equal a buff. Buff plus nerf does not equal buff, so it's not too big of an issue, but in a high-level squad where you're constantly taking health damage, you're going to run out of energy extremely quickly, especially if you have to cast your abilities. So the first build is a generalization build. It's basically trying to make it mostly even for you and your teammates at the same time. Got good power strength. Obviously, the Rage mod used to be power strength, used to be intensify for an even 200% power strength, which gave allies 400 armor. But I had to do this because Rage is now required. If you don't have it, you run out of energy too quickly, so it's not even optional, it's basically required. And this build is basically the personal use. You have a little bit more energy and Rage and a lot more energy max or power max. So while the range is really short, so it's not really good for the hollowed ground, you'll be able to keep yourself alive longer. But it's not too much better than the first build, so it's not great. This one is my preferred build, and it's focused more on crowd control and just duration, so your hollowed ground will last a really long time, over twice the amount. The efficiency is okay, so the energy drain combined with the high duration is okay for Renewal. And the power range is really high. It's not max because of narrow-minded. That's okay, because that's actually kind of countered by stretch anyway. So it's got really good range, so you can cast your 4 and enemies within. I'm just going to look at this now. So basically with this crowd control build, you can actually use Reckoning on enemies 30 meters away, which is pretty good. And as you probably noticed with the Renewal, the health over time is only 28, so 28 health per second, which is not very good. And the armor is also very low. It's only 140 if they were targeted with Renewal if they're standing on hollow ground. Hollow ground is really good though. It covers a large radius and has a 325, I think this means degree angle, so like there's a little spot behind you that'll be covered, but it basically, like if Oberon was right here, basically this hollowed ground with this build extends like this in like a really wide radius, so it's really nice. It does low damage and has low status, but the power duration is 43 seconds. So if you cast it, you won't have to recast it, which is important because, like I mentioned, Renewal uses energy over time, even when it's not healing. So despite this being a little bit less effective, you'll actually be using less energy in the long run because you don't have to cast the abilities like Hollowed Ground as often. And I'll probably have some footage in the background of me using this crowd control build against around level 40 infested, I think it was. Which of course isn't that high, but I did manage to actually use Phoenix Renewal. Somebody actually managed to benefit from the ability, which is nice. I rarely ever see that happening. It's mostly because this range, because I've heard other people say that it isn't affected by range, but I really do think it is, because it says power range meters. I'm pretty sure this is the actual range of the healing pulse, but it might not look like it reaches 52, but I think it does. I'm not 100% sure. If not, well, it's still decent for the hollowed ground and the Reckoning. So all in all, whether you like the new changes to Renewal or not, it still is a nerf that it uses 2 energy per second when it covers allies, and this is probably the only issue I have with Oberon at the moment, but it is a big issue. The fact that you can't heal allies when they're really far away now because the lack of the orbs that it used to have is still very frustrating, so you basically have to beg your teammates to stick together, which almost never happens in public matches unless you ask. I have the same problem with Trinity. After she was nerfed, I stopped using her as much, because while the range of her heal is still fairly decent, even defense maps can get pretty big, so there's people always running around. But with Trinity you have Link, so if an ally goes down, you can at least cast your Link and then run to them and then not have to worry about being one-shotted. With Oberon you can kind of do that. You can cast maybe Hollowed Ground and then his Reckoning, and that might CC some enemies, but other than that, you're kind of screwed. Generally, he's still positive, and I do recommend my crowd control build, like I mentioned. That's basically the builds that I have, and they work fairly well. I wish I didn't have to use Rage, but like I said, I'm pretty much required to do so now. But it is overall positive, so I don't really have anything else to complain about. So yeah, thanks for watching.